Hello and welcome to the Route 1 show. I'm Stephen Brown and with me today is Tim Feather. Hello, Tim.
All right.
Egg number 1, I'm going to call you if that's okay. And also he's back. It's Alex Spivey. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Steve.
You're back, egg number 2. Brilliant. Now, coming up on today's show, we'll have the fallout from the derby between Guiseley and Bradford Park Avenue. And the pod's also going to discuss Leeds United's last gasp loss against Reading on Wednesday night. And we've also got an exclusive interview with ex-Sheffield Wednesday player Matt Hamsaw, as well as all the latest on Bradford City, Halifax Town and Huddersfield Town. And we'll also discuss this week's Champions League games and preview the weekend's Premiership fixtures. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us here on the Route 1 show, you can tweet us at the Route 1 show, or you can email us at theroute1show@gmail.com. So we've been discussing the appointment of Mark Bauer as permanent manager of Guiseley. I'm delighted to say joining us on the line now is our Guiseley correspondent. It's Colin Robertson. Hello, Colin.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So what's your reaction to the appointment of Mark Bauer?
Well, I'm not exactly surprised. I think it's a good appointment. I think he's spoken very well. And, the first 2 games haven't done... he hasn't had a good result on the pitch, but certainly on Tuesday night, the actual performance the side put in was tremendous. And he had everything that could go wrong went wrong for him on the night. So, he really didn't have the luck with him on Tuesday. So no, I think it's a good decision.
I mean, speaking of that Bradford Park Avenue game there, the general consensus seems to be that Bradford Park Avenue kind of got away with it a little bit, especially second half, even when Guiseley were a man down. How did you see the game?
Oh, it was just an unbelievable sequence of events, really. I mean, you take the night, we lost Andy Holdsworth, then Matt Clark, then Danny Ellis. You've got the sending off. It was just everything that went against guys who possibly could go against them, did seem to go against them. Yeah. And yet, even so, outplayed Avenue in the second half. For a long stretch of that half, it was only really when they tired in the very final 10 minutes that Avenue got the second and started to hold on to the ball better. But I thought it was a fantastic Guiseley performance, and 2-0 down. Yeah, I've never seen a team come off to such applause. From having been beaten 2-0. So there was a real support, I think, from the fan base. They'd appreciated the effort and the endeavour. A spirited
defeat there. And it's a difficult one coming up, isn't it, Colin? Huddersfield Town, top of the league, on fire really at the moment. How do you see that one going?
Oh, it's a really tough ask. And actually it's really tough as well because of the lack of a recognised back four at the moment. Well, centre-half pairing anyway. I mean, Spencer Harris came on Tuesday. He's been on dual registration. He's obviously wasn't somebody who we'd intended to play much of. He only made it into the bench at the very last moment because of Matt Clark's injury. And Jake Lawler played at centre-half as well. He did very well. But, when you think about putting a makeshift centre-half pairing up against the likes of a quality outfit like Hensford, it's going to be a tough afternoon, and I guess it also begs the question to Mark Bauer: does he play or does he manage? And I think that's going to be a big decision for him.
Looking back on the dismissal of Steve Kittrick last week, in retrospect, do you think it was the right decision by the club, or is it just too early to say yet?
Well, I think what's gone is gone, really. Yeah. I mean, you can't dwell on it too much. I think the club needs to move forward now. At the end of the day, Mark is about to start off his career in management. He's already, I think, shown a sense of getting the players to do things that he wanted them to do. Mm. I mean, the way they came out of the track blocks on Tuesday night was something else. They really did pass the ball, move the ball. It was incisive. It was sort of football which we hadn't seen actually for a while. Right. Possession, but also intent. And I think that obviously the manager now, Bauer, has made his mark on the side already at this early stage.
OK, so the big news in regards to Guiseley this week, it was announced Thursday evening, is the fact that the club has given Mark Bauer a full contract. He is their next manager on a permanent basis. He hasn't had the best of starts, Tim, but it's a very difficult time to come into the club. He took over at the weekend when they lost 3-0 to Boston, then they've lost to Park Avenue the other night. Mark Bauer, what do you think this is a good appointment? How do you see this one?
I think it's a brave appointment, especially with the way that Guiseley have been playing. Chris alluded earlier saying that Guiseley played really well, but were unfortunate to lose 2-0. But when we spoke to the chief executive last week, I'm pretty sure he did say it was on a game-by-game basis. So I think once you've lost 2 and they decide to give you a contract, I think it is brave.
Yeah. What do you think, Alex? Do you think Mark Bauer, is that a good choice for guys? Is it safe? I mean, it was alluded to last week that guys who don't have the money to go and pinch someone else, and there's a lot of rolling contracts at that level anyway. Mark Bauer, as guys are managed, do you see that one working out? Where do you stand on that one?
Well, obviously he's been at the club for some time now, so he'll know the setup well. As you say, they've spent a lot of money in the past and now they're making a few cutbacks. So I think the only way to go is with a young upcoming manager. So it's a good opportunity for him, and he's played Football League for a lot of his career, so maybe he'll have a few contacts. So yeah, let's see how he does. It's good that they had a good performance midweek in only his second game.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully he'll do well.
What do you think's wrong with Guiseley as a whole in terms of a club that's expected to be Conference Premier, and like you said, Alex, they've had a lot of money kind of put into them before, maybe not so recently with budget cuts. What are Guiseley missing really? What's that bit that's missing? Is it just that extra bit of quality, or was it just luck? I mean, they lost in a playoff final last year. It's just they seem to be missing out on that last bit.
For me, it's goals that they're seriously lacking. They're lacking something up front, aren't they? I mean, you look at the past couple of games, and they haven't scored many, but they've leaked quite a few. They brought Matt Clark in to bolster the defence a little bit, but they're definitely a club in transition. It could be that the second half of the season is a lot kinder to them than this half. I mean, I'm not going to lie, to go to Boston United first game in charge is a difficult one.
Yeah.
And to lose to Park Avenue, that'll be a tough pill to swallow. So now Bauer's going to have to try and lift his players up for the next game against Huddersfield Town, which again is another toughie, isn't it?
Well, Alex, I mean, Huddersfield Town, they're the surprise package. I mean, they're on fire. I mean, they're the first position, they've only lost one game, and they're scoring for fun there. How do you see that one going? I mean, that's the terrible game for Bauer to have, isn't it?
It is, but I think now he's got the job permanently, he'll be able to relax a bit more, not having to prove himself game by game, and it can go in with a bit of a longer term plan now. Perhaps playing top of the league is even less pressure, so it's a chance to rebuild now. And
do you think, how long before a manager like that makes his stamp on the team? How long do you think it takes for it to become his team rather than Kittrick's?
Probably about a season, I'd say.
Yeah, but do managers get a season these days, or is it? I mean, people talked about it being poor timing to sack Kittrick in the first place. Just a few games into the season when the results, I
think all managers want a pre-season to get everything together, and it's a similar time to when Phil Parkinson started at Bradford. He had a chance to get players in, but it took a good year for things to change.
Final word on Guiseley then, Tim, going to Huddersfield Town. Do you see it, as Alex does, that it could be a chance for them to change the fortunes, or do you think that it's basically going to continue this baptism of fire for Mark Bauer?
I definitely think it's going to be an extremely tough game, but if they can get a win there, that's going to lift everybody at the club's head. That's going to really get them going. And you look at Huddersfield Town, and they did lose to North Ferriby United, which Guiseley have probably been about
lost well as well. 3-0 they got beat there, didn't they? So
I mean, we don't know the situations in that game, but Guiseley could, if they can pull that off, then
it should be all right.
Yeah, it should be all right for them. Yeah.
Okay, well, joining us on the phone now is Chris Bell. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Steve. You all right, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well.
Good stuff. Now, it was a cracking win for Bradford Park Avenue in the derby against Guiseley, 2-0 at the Nethermore. You were there to witness the game. How did it go? What was it as kind of as good as the score suggested, or was it a bit tighter?
Well, John Deasy, since after that game, came out and said that was Park Avenue's worst performance of the season. They just ground out the result. And basically, the second half in particular was like that. The first half was relatively even, a bit end-to-end, and then obviously with Guiseley conceding in about the 44th minute, I think it was, then getting the centre-half sent off, and Richard Marshall stepped up, put them one up at half-time. So at the end of the first half, 0-0 would have been a fair scoreline, but, Park Avenue were fortunate to have the lead. As for the second half, Guiseley, frankly, battered them for the most part. It was just unbelievable how a team that were a man down could play so well given the first half. And it was just a simple counter-attack from Park Avenue on a time when they could actually get some breathing space, shall we say. Quick counter-attack down the other end, good work from Chibchalaka, pulled back, keeper parried it out, and it just fell for Louis Swain, who smashed home for about 10 yards off the underside of the bar. So from Park Avenue's point of view, it was a very fortuitous result, really.
Yeah.
I think Mark Bauer can consider himself pretty unfortunate and quite hard done by as well to have received the red card as well, because it was a bit of a nothing challenge, shall we say. Both players went down. There didn't seem to be much in it. Only the referee seemed to be the only one that thought, yeah, that's a penalty.
And, of course, that gives Bradford Park Avenue the third win on the trot. It was a bit of a dodgy start, shall we say, from Park Avenue at the season, but things seem to be falling into place now. How do you see the kind of form at the moment? They've obviously improved.
Well, this is the thing. It is a case of improving gradually. You look at how the season's gone. It was 2 defeats, followed by 3 draws, followed by 3 wins. So gradually things are starting to come together for John Deasy's side on the pitch. They're looking a lot more settled. Obviously, at the start of the season, they had players out injured. They had Nathan Hott suspended for the first 4 games after being sent off in the final game of last season. So he's been a massive boost to the side as the captain. Things are gradually getting there. I think on Saturday they've got one of the biggest tests that they've had this year, or this season rather, because it's Solihull, a side that they've not lost. They really are the surprise package in terms of the established Conference North sides, but they've played 1-5, drawn 3, yet to lose, yet to be beaten. So it's going to be an interesting game, because obviously Solihull are doing something right away from home. I think they got a last-minute win, or a late win, on Tuesday night away at Leamington. So things are starting to fall into place for Marcus Bignot's side there, and it's going to be a very, very interesting game. I think Park Avenue will have to play better, without a doubt, than they did, if they want to get a result against what, on paper anyway, and to be fair, with the league table the way it is, a better side than Guiseley have been this season.
Absolutely, because, I mean, looking at Solihull Moors there, they're sat in 3rd place. They're unbeaten as of yet, and it's 2 teams really in form in terms of results-wise. I'm going to be a bit cruel, Chris. If I had to, if you have to put your neck on the line, who would you say is going to nick this one?
It's going to be very, very tough. For me, Park Avenue, if they can just improve the performance, if they can get the performance and get the result, I think Park Avenue will be able to just nick it, even if it's just a 1-0 or a late 2-1 winner or something like that. So for me, I'm going to go, sticking my neck out, I'll go Park Avenue for the win.
Lovely. We'll hold you to that, Chris, next week. Don't you worry about that. OK, so we heard there from Chris Bell, our Bradford Park Avenue correspondent. Tim, Park Avenue season finally getting going. That's 3 back-to-back wins. A very good win against Guiseley. Perhaps a bit lucky, as Chris alluded to when we spoke to him. How did you see the game on Tuesday night? On Monday night, sorry, wasn't it? Was it Tuesday?
No, it was Tuesday night. No, I consider it a very good win for Park Avenue, because going to Guiseley's, I think it'd be a tough place for him to go. But when you like Chris said, playing against 10 men, it can be even harder, especially when then 10 men are at home. And also, you see the fact that Park Avenue were trying hard to keep, they soaked up the pressure, and then they ended up getting a second goal from it. So you can say that it was a worse that they played, or maybe you could say that they played the right tactic in allowing Guiseley to come onto them and then play them off the park and get them a goal.
absolutely. And Alex, Bradford Park Avenue, they're playing Solihull Moors next to lie third in the table. How do you see that one going?
It's going to be an exciting game. Both teams have won the last 3 games each. We've been touching on Park Avenue's poor performances, but they're unbeaten in the last 6 now.
Yeah.
So I think the results will give them enough confidence, right, even if they're not playing too well.
Well, that's true, because everyone kind of talked about this disappointing start to Park Avenue season, Tim, but really, I mean, 6 games unbeaten. That's not too shabby, is it?
No, I don't think it's too bad. Especially when you consider, right at the beginning of the season, how many goals they were leaking in. I mean, they've leaked 15 goals in. But then you look at the past 3 games and they've only leaked 2.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something which has improved for Park Avenue. Although they're going up against Guiseley, who have scored 13 themselves and only conceded 5.
Oh, Solihull.
Solihull. Playing Solihull, yeah. Solihull have scored 13 and only conceded 5.
That's an interesting mix.
I think they've caught guys at a decent time as well, obviously, I think, as well.
Now, in terms of the future, Alex, in terms of Bradford Park Avenue, how do you think it plays in the mind when they can't actually go up a division because of the limitations with the stadium? How does that affect the players?
A bit mixed, really. Obviously, they'll be playing for the personal gain now.
Yeah.
So for themselves and their own future, they should want to win as much as any other team.
OK, well, I'm delighted to say that we now have on the phone ex-Sheffield Wednesday, Mansfield Town and Notts County midfielder Matt Hamsaw. Hi, Matt.
Are you OK?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming on. So we'll start at the beginning. You started your career at Sheffield Wednesday and you played with players like Glenn Whelan and Chris Brunt. What were some of the highlights of your time at Wednesday?
Well, I had quite a few, to be honest. We had promotion season with Paul Sturrock, obviously. It was club who gave him my debut. So I've got a lot of fond memories there. Scored arguably the best goal I've ever scored in Worthington Cup, which is fondly remembered. But it's just a great place to play.
Would that be the goal?
Really.
Would that be the goal against Watford by any chance?
It would, yeah. I've only watched that 500 times. I'm not counting.
So that's where the YouTube views come from. No, we were having a look before actually, because we went on a forum and there were loads of Sheffield Wednesday fans got in touch with us, all wishing you well and saying you were a great player for them. And that goal against Watford, I mean, that was brilliant. You started off in your own half.
Yeah, no, that was unfortunate for me. I had a couple of bad injuries and I lost a little bit of that going back into cruciates. But yeah, at that time it was, well, like I say, it's still holding fond memories of that night, really.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you had a couple of serious injuries there. What's it like when you're out with an injury? How difficult is the mental process during an injury?
It's horrific. Anybody will know when it's something that you love doing and you're going to watch games and you're just desperate to be out there. And unfortunately, when I was there, it coincided with a relegation, and you just feel, not that I felt like I could have helped, but it's just hard to watch your mates suffering and going through things, and you just want to be out there with them.
Yeah, so I guess it's quite lonely, isn't it, I suppose, if you're out on the injury list?
It really is, yeah. I mean, the club are quite understanding, to be honest. When you're going in gym every day on your own and doing repetitive same things, and they let me have a break now and then. But I just love football, you see. I always have and I always will, and it's just so hard to stop doing something that you love doing.
Sure, absolutely. Now, you also played for Notts County during an interesting time for the club, which included the arrival of Sven-Goran Eriksson. What was that whole experience like?
It was a bit surreal, to be honest. Obviously, I was at League 2 with Mansfield season before, and you kind of under the radar, and League 2 is... Well, it's well documentised now, but not as much as it was back then. And obviously, we were waking up on Sky Sports News and we were staying on every day, and we were getting more publicity than Premier League clubs, which was it was incredible, really. So it was really surreal, but a real good time because we got a chance to work with one of the best coaches in the world. Obviously, brought our group with him, which again was a good experience, but. To be honest, they only oversaw things. Ian McPartland and Dave Keevan did a lot of real good work, and obviously Steve Cotton and Hans Backer backed that up through the season. Yeah, no,
absolutely. I mean, for those of us who are on the sidelines, and we always dream about having a career as a footballer. What could you give us an insight into life as a professional footballer? The highs, the lows, the pressures, that kind of thing?
Well, I think the eyes obviously going out playing every week. Obviously, it's a lot better when there's a full house, and 9 times out of 10 while I were at Hillsborough and especially at Notts County as well, we had good crowds, which is always great to play in front of. You always want to entertain. Obviously, the lows we touched on it, there's got to be injuries.
Yeah.
Not playing and feel like you're kind of an outsider on the inside of it. And then just the pressure to perform, but it weren't just on a Saturday. For me, I'm into coaching now, but even more so now. It's the pressure to produce in training and train as you play, and there's always pressure on you and always somebody watching you, and I think a lot of people forget that, no matter if it's a Monday morning or a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, that somebody's always watching and judging, and it's important that you do everything right.
Absolutely. Now, looking back, who would you say is the best manager you played under, and why?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think there's different ones for different reasons, to be honest.
Yeah, they have different qualities, I suppose, don't they?
I really enjoyed playing for Chris Turner, and I had him at Chef Wednesday, and he brought likes of Glenn Wheeler and Chris Brunton, and then obviously I worked with him at Stockport as well, and just a real good man manager, real nice lad. I think he got the best out of me while I was there.
Yeah.
At the time, I couldn't stand, but I found Paul Stewart really hard work. Yeah. But now when you look back on it, he's probably the best manager I've worked for, because he got the best out of every player that we had in that squad.
Yeah.
And again, it's not till you have a bit of experience that you realise that they had a big impact on your career.
Sure, no, absolutely. And in terms of the best player that you played with, who would you rate in terms of the best you played with?
Oh, I guess you put me on the spot there.
No, none of them scored a goal like you did against Watford, you know.
I don't know, I wanted to have. I was quite lucky because I played with England youth and went abroad, and I think early on in my career I was lucky to obviously train and play with Chris Waddle,
wow.
Paolo Di Canio.
How did you find those?
Yeah, Paolo was there at Wednesday when I was there. Just unbelievable attitude towards training, work rate. Him and Benito Carboni at that time were the so-called ones who every fan saw as high maintenance, but they're just the work rate and the commitment, and they stayed after hours, way after everybody else, and just the commitment and the desire to train again, really. But like I said, I've been lucky. It's hard to pin one or two out. I've been fortunate through my career, both with England youth and as a professional, that I've played with some good players.
Superb. Now, you mentioned that you're involved in coaching now. How do you find that experience, and is management a possibility in the future?
Well, at the minute it's cold because I'm just doing it. No, but it's something I'd really, really love to get into. As you say, I spoke about how much I love football. If I'm not playing it, we're always watching it and learning and picking things up from different coaches. And at the minute I'm lead development phase coach at Rotherham, working overseeing from 12 to 16s and having an impact with those. And I just feel great. I don't know, itself, I think it's the second best thing to play, to be honest. Just seeing the young lads develop and some going on to play first team, and I just hopefully pass next experiences on, and you know, there's a lot of good things happening now with FA where you're getting a lot of good experience, and just trying to use that to produce better young players, really.
OK, so we're going to look at the Championship now, and on Wednesday night, Reading got a last gasp win against Leeds United. As a Leeds fan, that was very disappointing. Tim, although Leeds lost, they're showing signs of improvement under McDermott, surely, aren't they? I mean, they've not conceded many goals, they've nicked a few wins. How do you see their season going so far? What do you expect of them for the rest of the season?
Well, they look to be playing a better style of football. But as I alluded to last week, I think there's a bigger teams in that league, and they played one of them on Tuesday night, which is Reading.
Yeah.
But looking at Leeds' results, it looks like they're lacking something up front. I mean, I know that the defence looks fairly good, but it's these goals up front that they're lacking, really. Like I saw parts of the QPR game, and you know they could have got a few goals in that if they'd have had something a bit more front.
Well, Alex, I mean, talking of Leeds United's front line, Luke Varney and Noel Hunt, you're not expecting lots of goals there, are you, really? I mean, you know, there's been talk of getting Becchio back on loan from Norwich. Is that a possibility? I mean, where do you see Leeds' problems, or is it just a work in progress and it's just going to take time?
No, I think they need reinforcements. I think they've got a decent squad, but I think McDermott's getting the best out of what he's got, really. If you can get add a bit more pace to the team, get a couple of attackers, wingers maybe. But I wouldn't say it's a bad start. I think it's doing as well as they can, really.
Yeah, I mean...
The fans... the fans seem to be a lot happier with McDermott than Warnock.
Yeah, but I mean, as a Leeds fan and following him, it seems to be much more positive than it was 12 months ago. Even when we got a couple of good results under Warnock, it still felt ultimately like it was all going to, crash down.
But was that Warnock or was that Bates? Or was that a mixture of everything?
It might have been a mixture of everything, really. It was just a feeling around the club that, there were people involved in the club that
wasn't a long-term plan,
wasn't a long-term plan. Fans didn't particularly like him, and with McDermott, you get the feeling that there's something for the long term. I guess the frustration is that 10, 11 years we've been outside of the Premier League, and you can mock Leeds fans for thinking that they deserve to be in the Premiership, etc., etc. But it is frustrating to see season after season.
I think you had a better squad with players like House and
Grayson,
Gradle,
absolutely.
Snodgrass, Beckford.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to think those players are regulars in a Premiership team.
Well.
Yeah, it's amazing to think those players are playing regularly in a Premiership team. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? Really?
Norwich Scout living in Leeds. That's
right. Yeah. So it was not a great result there, but they play Burnley next. Team Burnley are flying at the moment; they're in fourth. Is that going to be a difficult one for Leeds? How do you see that one going?
I do think it's going to be a difficult one for Leeds. I mean, you look at Burnley beating Birmingham 3-0, and even drawing with Blackburn, which was that's a fiery derby, that one. It's going to be a tough one, especially if Leeds can't score, because it looks like Burnley can score. I mean, they didn't score against Brighton or Yeovil. Oh no, sorry, they did score against Yeovil. They did score against Brighton, and that's the only game where they haven't scored in the past 5. So, and they're fourth in the league as well. So they've always been that team that's there or thereabouts of Burnley, haven't they?
Alex, how do you see that one go?
I'd go for Leeds, to be honest. I think Leeds do up the game when they've got a big crowd at home in the local derby. But Burnley have started well. Dan Ings has scored a lot of goals, carrying on from where Charlie Austin left off.
They've done well, haven't they, to replace those goals, haven't they, Ray? Because that is the hardest thing in football to say is goals, that commodity.
Definitely.
But they've
got a lot of money as well, and they've not really put a lot back into the team. So if they can be fourth in the league and have a lot of money left over, then they'll be in a good position in January to strengthen.
Right, and looking at Huddersfield Town, wonder goal by Joel Lynch, scored late on in their game against Charlton Athletic, gives Huddersfield a 2-1 win there. They'd kind of dropped off form for the previous couple of games. They've got a draw against Doncaster, lost against Barnsley, which was a disappointing team. But lying in 10th, things are going okay for Huddersfield out there. There's, it could go either way at the moment, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly an improvement on last year, where I think they were unexpected to just stay up. And I think this year they were probably expectations were to try and consolidate again. But they're flying at the moment, 10th in the Championship. When you consider the other teams that are in there, I mean, you can probably name 10 ex-Premier League sides in just...
above Leeds.
Well, add that little dig in there. But they've won 3, they've drawn 2, and they've only lost 2, to be honest, so they're fairly consistent. So
it's all looking good. Huddersfield Town against Blackburn, Alex. Blackburn 14th. They've not won for a couple of games. How do you see that one going?
I think that'll be a really good game. Jordan Rhodes against his old club. I do like Blackburn's team this season. I think they've kept Gary Bowyer in charge, and I think they will have a good season. Huddersfield, Mark Robbins has done well everywhere he's been, really, and it just shows you if you've got a good manager, you don't need the best teams. Huddersfield and Leeds both in the top half, and both managers overachieving in my book with the squads they've got.
OK, well, we're going to move on to Bradford City now, and I'm delighted to say joining us on the line now is our Bradford City correspondent, it's Pete Chapman. Hello, Pete.
Hiya, Steve.
So it was a bit of a shock, the result against Colchester at home 2-2. I think a lot of people were expecting City to kind of steamroller that game, although probably not Parkinson himself.
No, I think the management team are very clear that Colchester were a good side and had a few injury problems, and that's why the start they'd had hadn't been so good. But I think you felt it, not maybe from the players, but certainly from the fans, when Wells scored early. Oh, here we go again, another 4-0. And then came from a City corner came the first goal in the end, a very well taken goal. And then, of course, McArdle's defensive error, and suddenly Colchester were 2-1 up. And the whole atmosphere in the ground changed. It went very, very quiet.
And in terms of, this is a league up from last year. Is it these kind of games where you're starting to see the difference in quality?
I think so, yeah. But the impressive thing is that Bradford didn't buckle. They knuckled down, and the second half were by far the better team. I suppose what might be a slight concern now is that they're tending to get a bit bullied away from home and are not putting on such good performances away from Valley Parade.
Yeah, what does Parkinson make of the away form then, which is not quite as convincing as the home form?
Well, I have to say, he didn't come up for the press call today. It was Steve Parkin, the assistant. But he said he's not too concerned, but he does want to get the win, or obviously they both do, want to get the first away win under their belts, and they want to stop this sort of having to come back and fight back for a draw all the time.
Hi Pete, it's Alex here.
Hiya.
Hi, do you think, you mentioned McArdle's error against Colchester, I know he was considering playing Oliver again, do you think he might be tempted to bring him back in?
I think once Luke's fully fit, I think he will be in there, yeah. But, part of the problem is at the moment it's been such a long layoff. They don't want to overstretch the body and cause a problem. And he only played the other game, the previous game, because McArdle was called up by Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And I think apparently, from what Phil Parkinson said immediately after the game last Saturday, McArdle was really angry with himself about the error he'd made.
Yeah.
But was told to just go out there and get on with it. Everyone makes mistakes.
Well, he's made a couple this season, but McArdle and Oliver have both been good favourites with Parkinson.
They have, yeah. And I think they're both very, very, very good defenders. And let's not forget, McArdle played more minutes on the pitch than any other player in English football last year.
Yeah.
So Pete, it's Gillingham up next, who are floundering to say the least, without a win in 7. We said it last week, but I mean, this has got to be a win for City, hasn't it?
It should be. Yeah. I mean, they're aware of what they're going to get, because of course Gillingham, they walked the division last year. They haven't had such a good start as Bradford have, but they are a big physical side, and it will be a physical game. But yeah, you've got to say that if Bradford can just concentrate on doing what they have to do, that they should beat Gillingham.
So we've heard from Pete Chapman there, update with Bradford City. Parkinson didn't talk to the media today, it was Parkin instead. So, this is the part where I start to feel a bit outnumbered, because I'm in here with 2 City fans. What went wrong against Colchester? Surely it was meant to be another home bank. I'll start with you, Tim. What went wrong for City, if anything did go wrong?
I don't think anything went wrong. If you want to say something went wrong, I'd probably say expectations in the league are a bit wrong at the moment. We are definitely one of the top 10 sides in the division. I'd put us there. But I think if you're expecting to beat teams like Colchester, who've been in League One for a long, long time now, they've got the experience in that league, and we've still got a fairly relatively young side. I'd probably consider us at. I think 2-2 is a fair result, really. Colchester are probably going to be around mid-table. I mean, they've had a rough start, really, considering the injuries that they had, and they also had a point to prove when they lost to Coventry 2 weeks ago as well. So they probably came to Valley Parade thinking, we've got something to prove here.
So, Alex, were you disappointed at the end of the Colchester game? I mean, City leading. I mean, did you think, this is it? I mean, what were your feelings coming away from the game?
It was a close game, but getting a bit concerned that when it is so close, we tend to struggle to find a winner if we're not comfortably winning.
Why is that? What's that about then? Why is that?
Well, to be fair, he brought Ravenhill on, who's a defensive midfielder, with 10, 15, 20 minutes to go. And I do think the top teams would bring an extra striker on, or just change it a bit. But when you've got Wells and Hansen, he always leaves Hansen on, and you can't take your top scorer off either.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams would have a reserve striker they could bring on to nick a goal, but we rarely change it up front. But
is that the problem? Limited options when you can't. I mean, Wells and Hansen, fantastic, but when you scratch beneath the surface, is there enough there that's going to propel you through the throughout the season, Tim?
I don't think there is at the moment. I mean, I went up to Hartlepool, and the strike force that we had up there was Connell didn't get a chance on it. Thompson struggled up there as well, who played up front a couple of times last season, and he actually looked all right up front. And he played against Huddersfield, and Huddersfield struggled with him when he were up front.
Yeah.
So I think past Naki and Hansen, it does start to become a bit more limited as to what we can do. I mean, Connell's come on a couple of times and scored a few last minuters, which is good. But I don't know, maybe on Saturday Park he was happy with a 2-2 against Colchester. Maybe he'd rather draw 2-2 than end up losing it 3-2.
Yeah.
We need to start beating poorer teams away from home as well. The away record's not
well, it's
great.
like what Pete said. He said he's worried about City kind of getting bullied a bit away from home. I mean, is that the way you see it, Alex? Is it kind of that step up? And
well, yeah, we went to Port Vale when they'd not won yet, and they made it a really physical game, and they beat us. And I hate to say it, but I can see something similar happening at Gillingham.
Well, yeah, Gillingham up next, Tim. A wounded animal. They haven't won a game yet. And then the City, who are by the... Well, I mean, it's still, they've got a point against Colchester, but they're flying at the moment. I mean, it's a banana skin, obviously, isn't it?
Yeah, well, nothing's a dead cert in this league, but if we consider the away games that we have had, we had Bristol City, who's the next Championship club, 2-2. That's a good result in my book.
Yeah.
Port Vale has always been a bogey ground. I don't know, we won there in the Johnson Payton Trophy last year, but Port Vale are always that club that we just can't seem to get a win against. A bit like Rotherham, we struggle with them as well. I don't know why. I know Man U had it with Fulham a few years ago. It's that kind of thing. And Stevenage, to get a 1-1 draw at Stevenage, I don't think there's anything bad in that, really.
We say that, but all three of those are in the bottom half. So if we are looking for the playoffs, we need to start beating.
Yeah, but at Port Vale, I think it was a couple of silly mistakes, and again, it sounded like one silly mistake against Colchester kind of shot us in the foot again. Can I say is winning at Gillingham? I can do, but again, nothing in this division is a dead cert. I'd say if we do win on Saturday, bye-bye, Mr. Allen. I think I'm going to go on the record there. I think that'll be the final nail in the coffin for him, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, we'll wait and see. Now, just some news that's emerged today: the Tranmere versus Bradford City game has been moved to Friday, the 11th of October at 7:45 due to a proposed EDL march in Bradford on Saturday. OK, well, I'm delighted to say joining us on the phone now is our brand new FC Halifax Town correspondent. It's Andrew Pinfield. Hello, Andrew.
Hi there, you all right?
Thanks for coming on. So, Halifax Town, the result against Grimsby, 4-0, incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think it's been a great start to the season. Obviously getting promoted last season, we weren't quite sure what to expect in the Conference National. It's been quite some time since we played here before. Aspin's done a wonderful job getting us promoted twice, and his other season when he didn't get us promoted, he got us into the playoffs and we lost against Gainsborough. But this season, the home form's been tremendous, 5 wins out of 5. Okay. And if we could have kept 11 men on the pitch away from home, we could have probably had more points on the board.
Yeah, well, that's it. You make reference to this incredible stat that's happening about going down to 9 men. What is happening there? Is it Halifax a particularly aggressive team, or is it just unlucky or circumstance?
I wouldn't say we're a particularly aggressive team. The first game of the season down at Cambridge, we had a couple of players sent off in the first 20 minutes, Danny Lowe and Matt Glennon. And they were sending off, don't get me wrong, they were sending red card offences, but we've been unlucky really. I mean, Louis Maynard's red card at Forest Green last week was never a red card. The only ill-discipline really that we have shown this season was Salisbury away when Kevin Allsgrove and Josh Wilson, the two signings from Guiseley, were both red carded and quite rightly so for shall we say, off-the-ball incidents, and they deserve to be red-carded. But apart from that, the home form's been tremendous. If we can keep 11 men on the pitch away from home, I think we've shown already that we've surprised the team or two in the conference, and we can have another good season.
Brilliant. Well, speaking of the season, how well can Halifax do, in your opinion?
Well, they've surprised a number of teams. If you look at the teams we've beaten at home, Barnet, Wrexham and Grimsby on Tuesday, they're three teams that were tipped to not win the conference, but certainly be top five. And Halifax Town are still part-time. And we're competing with these full-time teams, so they've done really well. Yeah. And there's not going to be a problem with the home form. If we can pick up some points away from home, then I think Neil Aspin and the board of directors had looked for mid-table as a good season, and we could surprise one or two teams and just be on the verge of the playoffs if we can pick up a few points away from home. If we can get something at Kidderminster next Tuesday and get something on Saturday against Hereford, then speak to me a week tonight and we could perhaps be talking about a top five finish. You never know.
Well, it's that game against Hereford next. They're lying in 16th place themselves, have lost the last 3 games, are not in any kind of form. Would you expect it to be Halifax another win there?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? With the home form, like I say, I alluded to 5 wins out of 5, but football's never as simple as that, is it? No. But we've got a lot of history with Hereford. 92-93, it was Hereford United, the last game in the Football League, and we lost. The playoff final back in 2006-07, again it was Hereford United. So there is history between the two clubs. And it'd be great if we could keep this 100% home record going on Saturday at the Shea. Another 3 points would see us in the top 5, so that'd be a superb achievement.
OK, so we've heard from Andrew Pinfield there about FC Halifax Town. It's amazing, Tim, when someone tells it to you like that, you forget the stats, but 2 promotions under manager Neil Aspin and going well again in the Conference Premier. He's doing a cracking job, isn't he?
Yeah, it's like there's a revival down at Halifax Town at the moment. There seems to be so much positivity in the place. Last week we were just saying how the conference is starting to fill up with all these ex-Football League sides. So, Aldershot, Barnet, Grimsby, Chester, Lincoln. There's a lot of them in there, and for Halifax to be punching, I consider Halifax to be punching well above the weight, especially with some of the victories that they won. I mean, we said how Forest Green was going to be a tough game for them, and they came through it 2-1. On Tuesday night against Grimsby, every time I looked at the Sky Sports Centre, I had them on there was a goal going in, so
they were banging another one in. Alex, FC Halifax Town, they're in 6th place at the moment. How good of a season can it be for them, do you think? What's realistic for Halifax this season?
Realistically, I think they'll be looking to consolidate this season. Anything higher, that's a great achievement, but as we were saying, if they can carry on the home form, maybe they could get in the playoffs.
That's incredible, isn't it? 5 wins on the trot. Is that something where momentum can build, or can you imagine a Hereford coming up and actually putting one over Halifax at the weekend?
Well, form-wise, I think you'd expect Halifax to win, but as Tim was saying about the ex-Football League clubs in there, it just shows that it's so tough to get back promoted, and that's why it's littered with ex-Football League clubs. I mean,
Andrew alluded it to on the phone, didn't he, Tim? A lot of full-time clubs, and you're competing against teams with great stadiums and history. How difficult is it to be involved with that and to try and get success there?
I think it's very difficult, especially when you consider that there's only 2 promotion places into the Football League, and you're starting to get a bit of a bottleneck coming up. I mean, you asked if Hereford, if Halifax should win. As a City fan, I know Hereford have done that to us a lot of times, like they've been losing, and then they've beaten Bradford. I know they did it a couple of seasons ago. But I'd like to say Halifax win there. But when you smash Grimsby 4-0, they're not a bad team, are they, really? I mean, I've always wanted to see Grimsby do well.
When you see a result like that, 4-0 against Grimsby, Alex, that inspires confidence, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. I think they've taken it on from last season, the season before even. And once you get that momentum and confidence up, it's as good as having big name players, I guess.
OK, so we're going to look back at this week's Champions League group games. Starting well on Tuesday, the outstanding result there, Tim, Manchester United 4-2 winners against Bayer Leverkusen. Moyes making his group stages debut. Rooney scoring a couple of goals, getting in the 200 club. Is it all rosy for Man United at the moment?
I still think there's some work to be done, but beating the team that's third in the Bundesliga 4-2 at home is, I think that's a very good result, to be perfectly honest. And seeing Rooney getting 2, could have possibly had 3, but he got caught in 2 minds, didn't he? But he looks to be on fire at the moment.
Had a shocker, didn't they? Yeah. Alex, what do you think? Do you think it's fascinating this with Rooney, isn't it? I mean, does he actually want to be there, or it's bizarre, isn't it?
I think he just wants to play in the big games, really.
Right.
I think if he had a secure place in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the big derbies in the Premier League, I think he'd more than happily stay. But I think last season he was dropped a lot, coming off, playing wide, and I think he just wants his permanent position. But I'm not convinced by Man United at all yet.
No,
I
don't think they've started well at all.
My moment of the week did come when ITV interviewed Rooney, and they asked him. They said, "Are you happy here?" Which I thought was a fair enough question, and he said, "Yeah, I just want to play football." And then he went, "So did you hand in a transfer request?" And he just went, "Look, I've told you, I just want to play football. I'm just concentrating on that." It was like, oh, he won't be getting an interview again.
That'll be fascinating when Ferguson's book apparently comes out on Wayne Rooney's birthday, so we'll hopefully find out the truth there. Elsewhere, Manchester City, they were 3-0 winners away from home against Victoria Pilsen. Comfortable. I mean, we've been told that that's the reason Pellegrini's been brought in, to improve Manchester City's European form. I guess he's done exactly what it says on the tin there, hasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, it does come from a league where, you know, this is going to be me La Liga bashing again, but where you can rest players and focus on the Champions League in certain games. And I don't see how you can go to Stoke and play not very well, to be perfect. To say as someone who should be challenging for the title to play so poorly, and then go to Victoria Pilsen and win 3-0. I mean, it was that second half that they were devastating in that second half, and they could have probably had a few in the first half as well. But they should have the squad for both, though, shouldn't they? They should do, yeah. But if you don't concentrate on your league, you don't get in the Champions League. So it's all right doing well in the Champions League, but I mean, they've got bigger games. They've got Bayern Munich and Man United next, which
big test.
I think that's what separates Fergie and Mourinho with a few others. Like Wenger's never, when he's done well in Europe, they've not challenged at the top end of the Premier League, and when they were winning the Premier League, they were rubbish in Europe.
Yeah.
So
is that the key? That's the balancing act. It's very difficult because the Premier League's 110%, isn't it? And it's very hard to kind of manage both. But Man City, like you say, I mean, they've spent 100-odd million, and again, you know, I mean, surely they have the squad to be able to compete.
Well, I think striker-wise, I think the front four is stronger than last season. Well, last couple of seasons, sorry.
Dzeko looks a bit more formed, doesn't he, this time round?
Well,
get more chances.
Mancini brought all these players in, these front four, you know, David Silva and people like that, and then he played in the Champions League really negative tactics, like you know, not going for it. You know, it was like, well, what's the point of that? You know, if you want to rely on your defence, focus on your defenders, and you know, I think that is one of Man City's weak points. It is the defence, I think. I think they could definitely strengthen that up.
Elsewhere, Real Madrid 6-1 winners away against Galatasaray. Real Madrid a good bet for the Champions League, do we think? Bale, Ronaldo effect? Alex is shaking his head.
Yeah, I do. Bale came on, and he had something to do with all 3 goals when he came on. Now, admittedly, you could probably say Galatasaray might have taken the foot off the gas a little bit because they thought there's no point. I think it is. Bale does look like he's just slid straight in, to say the amount of football that he's played.
Like I predicted he would.
I don't think they'll win La Liga or the Champions League.
Why?
I just think Barcelona are stronger, and obviously a few other teams in Europe.
Ronaldo's looking good, isn't he? But we haven't got on to Wednesday though, have we? And obviously Wednesday was the Messi show, wasn't it? Barcelona 4-0 winners against Ajax there. But elsewhere, looking at the English teams on Wednesday night, Arsenal beating Olympique Marseille 2-1, a cracking goal from Walcott. Arsenal starts the season, Alex. It's looking pretty good now, isn't it?
They're playing how they've ended the last few seasons.
Which is a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normally they get good last 10 15 games.
And then nick fourth, but yeah, they're just going these runs where you just expect them to win now, and it is hard to stop them when they're like this. Could
it be their season, Tim? Arsenal?
I think they can definitely get out of the group stages, which they've managed to do for the past couple of seasons, and maybe get well into the knockout stages of this.
Still not played the two stronger teams, though.
No, they've not. No.
Elsewhere, let's have a look. Well, Chelsea, they lost 2-1 at home to FC Basel. What did you make of that one, Alex?
Not the ideal start, but as Mourinho said, he still fancy them to qualify. But I just didn't expect it at all. I thought they'd win the Premiership this season, and I thought they'd have a really good start under Jose, but it's not happened at all.
It's not happened. What's wrong with Chelsea at the minute, Tim?
There's no system in place at the moment. I think he's struggling to find a way to play. He's got all these fantastic players. I mean, he don't play one matter, which I cannot understand. Yeah. I think Chelsea have been in danger of signing names rather than players.
Yeah, I think Etu's a shocker. He hasn't played top-class football because he's been in Russia. He's 32. I don't understand that at all. You've got Lukaku, an up-and-comer.
What do you make of that?
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
When you got Torres, I'd sign you before Torres.
They've signed 3 or 4 midfielders, like one after the other, and they've dropped the best player for the last 2 years.
Bizarre,
I guess that's why they've not made a good start.
I just want to say I'm devastated at the first week of Champions League because the two teams I said would do really well, which were Dortmund and Chelsea, both lost 2-1.
Well, looking at Dortmund, Alex, you were mentioning before we recorded that Benitez and Napoli they've started fantastic.
Great start, yeah.
Won all the games.
The top of the league. They've obviously beaten Dortmund. They've obviously got a really good team there, and it might be a good fit for Benitez. And it's ironic that he's top of the league now, beating Dortmund, whilst Chelsea, who didn't want him, started off so poorly.
Does like his Europe, though, does Rafa, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He loves a bit of Europe, doesn't he? We'll do Premiership.
And I love Rafa.
Yeah, he's a Rafa fan.
I did see one tweet, which was Chelsea have made a fantastic start to their defence of the Europa League.
Right, okay, we're going to look at Premiership fixtures for this weekend. The early kick-off, Norwich versus Aston Villa. It's the Lambert, thing, returning back to Carrow Road. How do we see that one, Tim? Aston Villa looked like they were going to have a better season, but it's not gone right to plan, has it, after that Arsenal win?
No, they looked extremely strong when they first went to Arsenal, and they seem to have died off a little bit. I mean, they've had a couple of tough games. Newcastle played very well last week.
Yeah.
But going to Norwich have been alright themselves, though, haven't they? They've not done too badly.
Norwich are okay. A couple of places above Villa. How do you see that one going?
Well, I think last season Lambert did well against Norwich. I think they beat him in the league and they knocked him out of the cup before losing to Bradford. I think I said it at the start, Norwich have bought well this season, so I don't think Villa will win this time, but I think I'd go for a score draw. I think it'll be a really good game.
Score draw, Tim, score draw, what do you think?
I'm probably going to go, because when Norwich win, they win, so I think I'm going to go 3-1.
You're going to go 3-1. 3-1 Norwich.
Yeah. I won't put money on it, but I think I can see it. But whether it'll happen or not.
Fair enough. Now, top of the league, Liverpool. Now, they got 3 wins out of 3, and then Luis Enrique came out and said they could win the league, and then obviously they drew against Swansea. They're playing at Southampton at home. Coutinho is out for 6 weeks. He's been their main kind of playmaker so far this season. How do you see that one going against Southampton there, Tim?
Well, it's going to be the brands of football that these two teams play is very, very attractive. I like watching both these two teams. It's at Anfield, so I mean, in the past couple of seasons, Liverpool have had a couple of upsets at Anfield, haven't they? Really.
But that's the difference on it. You made that point, that upsets. I mean, if they're going to actually challenge for the top 4, this is the kind of result they've got to put in the bag, haven't they, Alex?
Yeah, I didn't expect them to be that. I didn't expect them to come top 4, to be honest. No. I don't know. I don't think they'll beat Southampton. I think this is the sort of game that'll suit Southampton.
Yeah.
I think Coutinho missing's a big loss, and maybe it's the last game without Suarez. I think so. Maybe Sturridge. I don't know. I'm not nervous.
Can he handle it on his own?
Yeah, it's like his last. He's obviously proved himself, but it's his last chance to play up front alone without Suarez.
So what we're going for there? What are you saying? Liverpool, Southampton? He's going for.
I think draw. Yeah,
draw. Tim.
I think Liverpool are going to win it.
I think Liverpool are going to win it. Newcastle, Hull. Hull have shown a bit of something in the last couple of weeks. They're sitting 16th. If they could end the season tomorrow, they'd probably take it. They're up against Newcastle. Newcastle, they haven't got the injuries this season. Ben Arthur, Kabay, they're all there and in amongst it, Gouffran, etc. How do you see that one going? Is that going to be comfortable for Newcastle?
I don't know if it's going to be comfortable, because I think Steve Bruce will set up at St James's to try and
park the bus.
Yeah, try and be not park the bus necessarily, just be difficult to beat. Really, I think he'll probably try some of the counter-attacking stuff that they've done a little bit this season.
Yeah.
But I think Newcastle are starting to gel, which surprised me, because I said after the transfer window, I said Newcastle are going to struggle between now and Christmas. But a win against Villa, a win against Fulham, and mainly a lot of that's come through the Loic Remy and Ben Arthur kind of link that they've got going on at the moment.
Quite a good partnership.
Yeah, I'd probably say Newcastle should win that.
Yeah,
but when it's Newcastle,
who knows?
Anything.
Newcastle, Hull. Alex, how do you see that one going?
Yeah, I think it'll be close. I do like Newcastle's front, midfield and forwards, actually.
Yeah.
I think the worry with them was if someone gets injured up front, they've not added to the squad. But if you look on paper, Sissoko, Kabay, Ben Arthur, Remy, I think that they've got a lot of good players. Yeah,
and not an Englishman amongst them. It's good, isn't it?
That's a surprise, because Newcastle and Sunderland have traditionally always churned out the English players.
Not anymore.
Struggling.
West Brom, Sunderland. Speaking of the devil, West Brom languishing still. It's not really started for them. Sunderland even worse. Di Canio still waiting for that win this season. Is that going to be just a terrible game, or do we see it kind of fireworks coming from that one too?
Well, you've got two teams where neither of them have won yet this season, so I think both of them are going to either going out to try and win.
A draw's no good for either, is it?
No, it's not really. But saying that, you've got two teams who are both going for a win, both quite creative sides, and can see a high scorer in that one.
The loser could be 4 or 5 points behind already.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say pints then.
I am thinking of that.
West Ham, Everton got that great win against Chelsea. Roberto Martinez's style starting to work at Everton there, Tim?
Yeah, I think it is. I think his style at Wigan was good, but I think now his style is starting to work with better players. Especially when they've bought so well a couple of weeks ago as well. I mean,
Barry, that block that he made against Chelsea was incredible, wasn't it? Rolled back the years there, didn't it? West Ham, Everton. Alex, how do you see that one?
Yeah, I do fancy Everton. West Ham up front are just so... They've got nothing up front. Sam usually gets results at home when he needs to. But I think with the confidence Everton have, and I think on paper you'd fancy Everton.
How they snatched a point against Southampton. I don't know if you saw.
That was awful.
I did.
And then they had that one glorious chance at the end, into James Collins, and they fluffed it West Ham. And then Allardyce came out and said, we should have won it.
I don't like him, but that's why he's a decent manager, because he can go there with no strikers against a better team, and he can get a point.
Chelsea versus Fulham. Chelsea will be looking to put a bad week to bed. That's a late kick-off at 5:30. Fulham, indifferent as per usual, basically. How do you see that one going, Tim?
Well, it's a West London derby, isn't it? So that's going to be another fiery one. Yeah, I can see Chelsea probably nicking it 1-0, but this is all dependent on whether they've got that. They've sorted out a system.
Who would you start? Who would you start up front for Chelsea? Would you go Torres Etu, or
I'd probably play with Torres, just because maybe he's got a little bit more about him, but he just needs a bit of confidence, doesn't he? But
haven't people been saying that for 2 years with him?
Well, yeah, they have, but it's a difficult one for Chelsea. I'm glad I'm not Mourinho. I mean, he's probably better at it than me, but
not on this week's evidence.
Well, they haven't scored in nearly 2 weeks.
I think they'll turn it on, and I think it'll be 3 or 4 Chelsea.
You think this will be the point where they come back?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll start up front, but I think, as we were saying with the midfielders, I think they will turn it on, and Fulham will get the backlash.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll play Mata and realise where he's been going wrong.
Yeah, Mata, he's not had a sniff, has he?
Mata and Hazard would be the first two names on your team sheet, you'd have thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on to Sunday's game, well, another bunch of pretenders, Arsenal against Stoke. Arsenal sitting in second. Ozil, he's had an immediate impact, assisting up at Sunderland last week. Can Arsenal actually challenge for the title this year? How do you see that game going against Stoke?
I think it's going to be a positive one. You've got Aaron Ramsey who's in form as well.
Incredible, isn't it? Yeah, great.
He'll be coming up against Shawcross again, won't he?
Oh dear.
No, I think you're going to look at two teams this year who, at the beginning of the season, everyone was talking about Man City, United and Chelsea. I mean, you could be realistically, I mean, I know we're only 4 games in, it's probably a bit too early to be looking at the table, but you could be looking at Arsenal and Liverpool.
We were saying it was going to be the most unpredictable one.
And I think if out of any of the seasons, this is probably the best season anyone's got a chance.
Last season was pretty poor, wasn't it, Premiership wise?
Yeah, well, I think even the season before when Newcastle came 5th or 6th, I think even that was a. You look at the quality of the teams that we've got.
Yeah,
but Arsenal, they've got a good team if they can keep everyone fit. I mean,
keep Ramsey in form.
I think it'll be close.
How do you see that one, Alex?
Yeah. They've had to play Marseille midweek.
Yeah,
Stoke are difficult to break down. It's not exciting, but it's rare that they get absolutely hammered.
Can you imagine a touchline ruck between Hughes and Wenger, and Stoke sneaking a 1-0 victory or something? I could imagine that.
I could see it being 0-0 for a good 60 to 70 minutes, and maybe nick a late goal. Arsenal.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game to judge because.
They need to start quickly.
Yeah, Arsenal have been playing this counter-attacking football, but if you're playing against a team that defends like Stoke, then it's going to be a bit more of a struggle, isn't it?
Crystal Palace versus Swansea. We've seen Swansea against Valencia, cracking form there. Crystal Palace unlucky against Manchester United, conceding a penalty. How do we see that one going? Is that going to be an edgy game, or are we going to see Swansea kind of open up a bit?
I think Swansea are going to pass it around a lot, and obviously, but they're going to pass it around a lot, and I think they'll still have that cutting edge against Crystal Palace. But Palace are all right at home, aren't they? They do make a lot of noise, and the fans really get behind the team. I mean, it's a team full of people. Well, they're not really Premier League players, are they? There's no massive names in there.
No. Alex, how do you see that one going?
Again with Arsenal, I think it does make a difference if you've played. Swansea aren't used to it as well, playing midweek abroad. I think if Palace do come out all guns blazing early on,
there's a chance.
I think they can get something,
yeah. Cardiff versus Tottenham. Tottenham an interesting one. We saw the debut of Christian Eriksen last week. He looked superb. Cardiff, they've battled well. They're doing okay as a promoted team. How do you see that one going, Tim?
I think. Well, first of all, I still find it weird looking at the Premier League table and seeing Cardiff City on there.
Yes,
but
where are Leeds? I keep looking. Where are Leeds? Lower down. We have to go to the other sheet. Back to the 90s.
Living in the past.
Yeboah, where are you, Yeboah? Yeboah, come back.
Living in the past.
That's what I need, Yeboah.
I think Cardiff will probably try and see how long they can keep that at 0-0. They'll enjoy a 0-0 there, but they might try and sneak one like they did against Man City.
Well, is Eriksen the missing piece of Tottenham? I mean, with Tottenham first couple of games, they fired blanks, and they got a couple of penalties and then lost against Arsenal. Is Eriksen the key that can get them going, do you think?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? We were saying it was a bargain.
Yeah.
Soldado's goals have dried up a bit, and Cardiff haven't lost since the first game.
Soldado, is there a risk that Soldado could be a flop? I mean, he's scored a couple of penalties.
But 28 million was it for a 28-year-old?
Yeah,
I think he'll eventually become good, but again, it's a different league, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a completely different.
Whereas when Man United signed Van Persie, you knew you were getting a guy who could score in the Premiership.
Tottenham have a whole new midfield as well, so it's the whole team,
right? Doesn't it?
But that Eriksen was devastating last week.
Yeah,
and
only going to get better. 21.
Yeah, well, they lost the playmaker Bale, didn't they? And you could tell that they were struggling with that.
Absolutely.
And I think Eriksen is the one who can just pick out that.
We're missing someone who could score 35-yard strikes, wasn't there, in the 90th minute? That's what they essentially missed. Then it's the big one. It's the Manchester derby, Manchester City versus Manchester United. 4th and 5th in the table. That's a close one. How do we see that one going?
I fancy Man City for this.
You think Man City are going to get their act together?
I'm going to go Man U. I'm going to It's red versus blue.
Hello. Why, Tim?
Right, I just think Man City have struggled to get it going in the league. I think the defence is struggling, and Man United can take all the confidence from that. Bayer Leverkusen. They hadn't had to travel during a week. What were it? Man City had to travel to the other end of Czech Republic. I mean, I know that were on Tuesday, but I think that this game, I think it's going to be Man United. I think Moyes will set his tactics up right.
You think he'll get it there? And you're going with City, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Moyes yet with Man United. They've always got a chance with Rooney and Van Persie up front, but I can just see with being at home, I can see Man City winning 2 or 3-0.
I've said it, Moyes sacked, Ferguson will come back. Temporary charge, you heard it here first, the Route 1 Show. Well, that's it. That's all we've got time for on this edition of the Route 1 Show. I've been Stephen Brown. Thanks for listening. Now, you can download the Route 1 Show on iTunes for free, and you can subscribe also, or you can listen on YouTube. Now, you can tweet us at the Route 1 Show. You can email us at theroute1show@gmail.com if you've got any comments or questions. In the studio with me this week has been Tim Feather. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Alex.
Cheers, Steve.